my water just broke. I felt like things really intensified.
She was right there and she was coming.
It was an amazing feeling.
I'm going to cry just thinking about it. I could feel her head.
We heard her cry. We were squeezing hands and she was screaming.
I'm Bryn Hunt Palmer, and you're listening to The Birth Hour. This podcast is designed as a safe place to come together and share childbirth stories. Stick around and join us to hear informative and empowering birth journeys from all over the world. If you're new to The Birth Hour, you may not know that we have an online childbirth course that is evidence-based. It includes 12 modules that take you from your final weeks of pregnancy through obviously preparing for birth and then postpartum and feeding your baby as well. And with enrollment in that course, which is called Know Your Options, you'll get free access to our other course called Beyond the First Latch, where we talk all about pumping, feeding baby, storing milk, going back to paid work if that's part of your plan, all of those things as well. Okay, so if you go to thebirthhour.com/course, you can see everything laid out in the course, module by module, as well as an FAQ section, which will hopefully answer some of your questions if you have any, things like how to get it covered by an FSA account and things like that. It also talks about the bonuses that come with the course, including bi-monthly Zoom calls and access to our private Facebook group. So again, that's thebirthhour.com/course. And you can use the coupon code 100OFF for $100 off enrollment as a podcast listener. We would also love to welcome you into our listener supporter group via Patreon. That's at patreon.com/birthhour. And by becoming a Patreon supporter, you get access to all of our archived episodes. This podcast launched in 2015, so we have over 800 episodes in the archives that are not in the main podcast feed. So you can get your fill of birth stories. And you'll also get access to our private Facebook group for Patreon members, which is a great place to honestly just to search the past posts to get answers to questions, but then of course to ask new questions, find community. It's a really, really great supportive group of people. So I highly recommend joining that. We would love to have you there. We also do monthly Zoom calls with our Patreon supporters, and you get an opportunity to enter your birth story via a different submission form than everyone else uses, and we choose 2 Patreon members each month to share their birth stories. So that is again at patreon.com/birthhour. There's also the opportunity to give Patreon membership as a gift, and that's just patreon.com/birthhour/gift. And it's pretty cool. You can click on which level you want to join, and then you can click on how many months. So somebody can gift you a year, which gets you a pretty good discount, but also they could do 9 months as, for your whole pregnancy or something like that. So that's a fun option. And again, that's at patreon.com/birthhour/gift. Today's episode is in partnership with Anido. Anido is the only at-home fertility monitor that tracks 4 key hormones, estrogen, LH, PDG, and FSH, on a single test strip and provides lab-grade insights in just 10 minutes. Unlike other ovulation kits that only give you 1 to 2 fertile days, Anido tracks your full 6-day fertile window and doesn't just predict ovulation, it confirms it, which is essential information when trying to conceive or understand your hormone health. Instead of piecing together fragments of information, it offers a full, clear picture of hormone health. With 96% accuracy, Anido is as reliable as a blood test, minus the inconvenience and the expense. I've had the chance to personally use Anido, and I was amazed at the user experience of the app. You enter in your last period date, and from there, the app guides you through exactly what to do and even sends a notification when it's time to test. The kit comes with everything you need to collect a urine sample, and the Anido connects to your phone's camera to read the test, so there's no squinting and guesswork, just easy to read results and clear directions when you're in that fertile window and when you ovulate. The Anido Starter Pack is available for just $89 with the code THEBIRTHHOUR at anido.com. That's INITO.com using the code THEBIRTHHOUR. Today's birth story guest is Dr. Roxanne Perot. She's going to be sharing her own journey with infertility, as well as her 2 births, her first a singleton and her second a twin birth. She's also a medical advisor for Anido, so we talk about how she uses Anido and looks at the charts and everything with her patients in her practice as an OBGYN. All right, let's hear from Roxanne. Hi, Roxanne. Welcome to the Birth Hour. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Bryn. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this episode. But before we get to it, can you tell listeners a little bit about you and your family?
Yes. So I am a board certified OBGYN. I've been practicing for the last, almost 15 years now. And originally from Louisiana, I came from a big, huge family. I'm one of 10 kids. And yeah, got blown to Dallas by Hurricane Katrina and started my career here. And I've been helping women to achieve pregnancy through infertility, as well as help them through labors, deliveries, postpartum. I was a conventional doctor for a long time, conventional air quotes, and I still do all of the Western medicine interventions when appropriate, but in my own fertility and pregnancy journeys have just kind of leaned into holistic alternative therapies that are evidence-based and focus more on empowerment, education, and personalization. I'm also a medical advisor for Anito fertility monitoring, as well as for a supplement company.
Very cool. We work with Anito as well, so I'm excited for that to be part of the discussion today, but we really are here to hear your personal story. So why don't you just start us off with your journey to getting pregnant? Gosh, I've listened to so many of these, and I think that even when you have like real emotions and tears, I don't think it's necessarily from unprocessed grief or post-traumatic, but I think that it can also be a beautiful external expression of, being thankful for the body that you have, that, the resiliency it is that it's gone through. I may choke up from time to time. Yeah. That's just a preface. But yeah, like I said, I'm one of 10. So I grew up thinking that I was going to have at least 5 kids. And my mom just always made it look so easy. And it was just a great environment that I thrived in. I met my husband in my late 20s during medical school, and we got engaged and then married. And, after a year, we started trying. And intuitively, my gosh, I think that everyone that goes through infertility, has that little voice in the back of their head that just says, something, I just don't feel like it's going to be easy for me to get pregnant. I was having, regular periods, but again, just to the testament of how we come to treat our bodies in the Western world, right? Pain, heavy periods, those are all kind of just brushed off as, shouldn't be a big deal. Of course, you have pain, you're shedding the lining, like you just take some Tylenol and move on. And those were things that I experienced from a very young age, but never really thought about needing to have them addressed because I was still having a period every month. So we've been trying for a year. And then, after that, our doctor asked us to go and see a fertility doctor. And we did a full workup, which for anyone that's gone through infertility evaluation is, confusing and aggressive. And very much disorienting even, because you're just told to do this and told to get this test done. At the end of all the testing, they said that I had unexplained infertility. They didn't know why I couldn't get pregnant. And so they said, but, it should be an easy fix. We went through artificial insemination, which is intrauterine insemination, without success. Month after month, months turned into years of then failed IVF cycles, several miscarriages along the way. Finally, I think it was in my introspect, I asked, if we could do a laparoscopic procedure to evaluate for endometriosis. And they did do one, and I was diagnosed with endometriosis. The fertility doctor did the procedure, cleaned everything up, and felt like I could try naturally on my own to get pregnant after that. Unfortunately, that didn't result in natural conception. And so we kind of were really at a crossroads. I felt completely inept. I felt like, the only thing I was really put on this planet to do is to procreate and further the human existence. And I couldn't even do that. So, again, I think for any woman going through infertility, it's a dark time. Mm-hmm. We ended up shifting to adoption. We actually got matched
for a little boy who the mom was already 36 weeks. So we were going to have a baby in a very short amount of time. And so we got the nursery ready and we were super excited. And the day that she went into labor, she called and said that she wanted to keep the baby. And just heartbroken, it definitely felt like almost like a stillbirth, because we had named him and we had his nursery ready and we weren't going to be taking home a baby. As it would be 6 months later, we realized that we were pregnant with our first. So a failed IVF cycle turned into artificial insemination and it was successful. And I kind of just from that experience, like I had no reflections in that time period. I didn't look back on those 4 years of infertility and gain any wisdom. I didn't gain any insights. I was so ready to just be done with it that I shifted into pregnancy and was just like, I'm just ready to beat this baby. So I don't even really remember my pregnancy, my first pregnancy, which I reflect on that as something that's a little bit of a heartbreak because I just wanted to see him so bad. I was just like, I just want a baby.
Yeah.
And so now here I am, taking care of women that are in that place that I was. And now I can actually use my reflections and my insights and what I learned to give them so much value and personalization and insights into what they're going through. And I mean, one of the tools that I use that I know we've talked about, Bren, is the Anito fertility monitor. For me, if I had that, like, yes, I'm having regular periods, but something like my progesterone, I'm just not making enough of it. Why am I not making enough of it? And going through all of those reasons why, your body is giving you that pause and saying, hey, I don't have what I need for a successful conception. Your doctor is saying you have open fallopian tubes, you have a uterus, your husband has the sperm, you have eggs, but there's still a disconnect. And so I love being able to review Anito charts to all of, more personalized and empowering concepts for women that I take care of now. And I've seen so much of the difference. So I'm grateful. I feel very redeemed in my fertility journey when I get to take care of women in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's such a simple, low intervention thing to do. Like you're just peeing in a cup.
Yes.
So, but I hadn't thought about bringing the charts to your doctor. How do you see a chart and what do you take away from it?
Oh my goodness. I tell them I'm obsessed with your charts. Send them to me every single day. So they send them to me every single day. I even have a HIPAA compliant text messaging platform that they can send it to me even on the weekends.
Nice.
And I'll either give them encouragement. Hey, your LH is rising right along with your estrogen levels. This is exactly what I want to see. Or, hey, your LH is rising a little bit later than I would have expected. Let's do these things next cycle to see if we can really move that LH surge a little bit earlier. With progesterone declining, we know how important progesterone is for the vitality and the health of that embryo, especially during that 2-week wait. And so we talk about ways to optimize progesterone naturally, but then we also talk about progesterone supplementation in the prescription form. So it's a beautiful chart in patients, really just cheering them on, giving them a pat on their back or giving them meaningful insights, which they absolutely love.
Yeah. I'm I can imagine that you're everyone's best friend who's trying to conceive. Sounds amazing. Awesome. All right. So you mentioned with your pregnancy that you were just really focused on the end goal. So did that come into play with how you prepared for your birth?
Yeah. I think, I was also in that phase of, I've delivered so many babies, I'm an OBGYN. I don't need birthing classes. I wish I would have done all that stuff. I wish I would have pretended like I didn't know anything. Because, I think that, even I just recently did an article on orgasmic birth for a magazine. And I was just like, gosh, yes. I would have wanted to have been able to
give me one of those.
That. Yeah, I had no idea those even existed. And, it's a lot of humility has developed over the course of as me being an OBGYN, which I think is so needed in the medical field. Like just saying, look, I don't know everything. So I do reflect back on that.
I'm always really excited to hear when OBGYNs listen to the podcast, because I'm like, even just hearing the way that your patients are interpreting things has to be helpful,
Exactly. 100%. Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming were you giving birth at the hospital you worked at, or what did you go with?
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At the hospital I worked at, my doctor was 2 doors down. And so, we scheduled an induction. My pregnancy went great, but again, I still was a full-time OBGYN up until the day that I was induced doing night shifts. Yeah. It was a crazy time. We also had a lot of disruptions in the practice on the business side of things that required more attention. And I was definitely fully distracted, but excited to see our little boy, and the outcome was positive. We had a very healthy little boy that was born, but I was, like I said, I was induced. I had Pitocin. I had my water artificially broken. I had an episiotomy, all the things that, again, when I look back even on just the fertility journey, like you're there, you're the one that, they're doing all these tests on, but are you truly present? Are you the one making the decision? And so I love, like, now what I do, like I have patients that push back and ask questions and say, why are you doing that? Instead of this. And I honestly love it. And I think that so much of the birthing experience has just been outsourced. And women don't get to feel the power that they should be able to feel in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so how did you feel about your birth?
I honestly, Brent, I didn't have any thought about it until I started writing for this podcast, little notes. And I was just like, wow, this is the world we live in, where we're like, we do one thing and then we're on to the next, without truly being in those moments. And I think that's a lot of how conventional medicine has crafted delivery these days. You deliver, you're out of the room, they clean up the room, the next one is in. I think as well that kind of like just started a little bit of my disillusionment with, every time I would see a patient and they'd be like, oh my gosh, Dr. Pero. And then they'd have their husband be like, babe, this is who delivered our baby. And I'm just like, well, I didn't really deliver your baby. You delivered your baby,
Yeah.
Right? We always say that. And I don't know why that always kind of got to me. I was just like, why are you saying that I delivered? I caught your baby. I made sure your baby was healthy through the experience, but it was you that did it. And we don't get told that enough.
Yeah. Well, how was your postpartum experience?
Postpartum experience was good. I had a lot of family support. Breastfeeding was a challenge, which again, I didn't do any breastfeeding classes. I didn't have a doula. All things I really wish that I would have done. Because I breastfed for 6 months, but it was not easy at all. I only ever made enough breast milk to get me through each day. And then I went back to work after 4 weeks. So again, just going through the motions, checking things off the list. That's what I was doing back then. And so that kind of then, like, the next check off the list was, well, I'm 37 now, we want to have more kids and we've got embryos frozen. Let's get in there and see what we need to do there. And so our oldest is only 22 months older than our twins that we then went back and conceived. So
Okay. So yeah, pretty quickly went back through the fertility journey, was it different at all this time for you?
It was, because it was so actually what I didn't mention the first time is that one of the things that changed that really kind of started, like just kind of starting that wormhole in my head for alternative ways of fertility and women's health, was the artificial insemination that worked with our first Gideon was the first month that I did acupuncture. And so for our transfer, he told us that, hey, you guys have just 2 embryos left. Neither one of them are like AA grade. And so I don't really think that, either of them are going to take, but maybe one of them. So I think we should put them both in. Well, I went and I did my acupuncture, and it was just one transfer, and they both took. So that was really amazing. That was starkly different than 4 years versus 1 cycle.
Yeah. And what was the experience like finding out it was twins? I mean, I guess with IVF, there's a possibility, so maybe not quite as shocking, but
exactly. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, looking back at it, I probably would have been like in such awe, like just realizing that 2 human beings were growing in my abs, in my uterus, and that I was able to, provide nutrition and everything that they needed. I'm 5 feet, and I weigh like 105 pounds. And so everybody had pegged that I would be going on bed rest, that I would be having them early. And so that was something that I was really proud of. I continued to work out in that pregnancy. I ate a little bit better, knowing that I had 2 babies in there. And we went to 36 weeks. So that was really amazing. I was really happy about that. And again, I think it's just a testament to, what do you have in your toolkit? Are you going to go with the percentages? Are you going to say the likelihood that this is going to happen? Or is that going to be you? Or are you willing to say, I'm here to defy the odds. I'm going to do this my way. And so it was just that empowerment piece that like really, and again, with each of my pregnancies, just feeling like I was like each time evolving into really, obviously a better mom, but especially a better OBGYN.
Yeah, you kind of experienced a little bit of everything. So I can imagine that would help. How was your birth with the twins?
Oh my gosh. So again, worked all through my pregnancy. Exactly. I think I was 36 weeks and maybe 1 day. I had such like a great doctor who wasn't afraid to let twins go to, any number of weeks. She didn't give me a deadline on when she was going to, induce me or, recommend me being induced. And that was so empowering, just to not feel that pressure that, if I don't go into labor on my own, that there's a chance that she could do a C-section, which I deal with a lot with twin pregnancies from stories that I've heard. And so 36 weeks in a day, I started to have brown discharge. I was kind of cramping on and off. And so I just said, hey, it's the end of the day. I'm going to walk next door and get my doctor to check my cervix. And she checked my cervix and it was 5 centimeters dilated.
What?
Yeah, super excited. But again, that reflection, like I didn't think, wow, my gosh, my body has gotten to 5 centimeters and not much. I haven't even really been in pain at all today. I wished that I would have been like, hey, let's ride this out. Let's see how this does. But instead, I worked myself so ragged that entire pregnancy, that day, that I was just like, I just want an epidural and I just want to take a nap before I have to push these babies out, And it was the right thing at that time. But again, I think I missed out on a real opportunity to just be more connected with my body, see how far my resiliency and my strength could go. And so I got my epidural and I took a nap, and then they woke me up when it was time to push. And so Lucy was baby A. She came out like after 5 pushes. And then twin B was a boy. His name is Hugo. And it's so fascinating. Like, I think a lot of people can see how their babies behaved during pregnancy or labor, delivery, and what type of child they are now. But Hugo decided to flip to going breech after his sister was born. And I think for a lot of doctors out there, they would have panicked. They would have said, emergency C-section, we have to get him out. But my doctor was so calm, and she was just like, well, his heart rate looks great. We're just going to let him do his own thing till he decides to turn on his own. Well, that was an hour and a half later.
Wow.
An hour and a half later. And it's wild too, because if Lucy were born just 30 minutes earlier, they would have been on a different day, because she was born at 12:30 and Hugo was born at like 2:00 in the morning.
Crazy.
Right? It was crazy. Every time everybody says that, they were like, what? They're a couple minutes apart. I'm like, no, they're an hour and a half apart. So, but Hugo, even to this day, he has a hard time. Like, you can't get him to do something he doesn't want to do, So yeah, I really appreciated my doctor in that moment, because she was just so calm, and she knew I wanted a vaginal delivery of the twins. And she allowed me to have that, to meet that goal.
What did you do during the hour and a half? Like, were you holding baby A?
I took a nap.
Okay, right, yeah.
I took another
And
nap.
your husband was just holding the baby, or was...
Yeah, he was holding the baby.
Okay. That's so cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was out. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay. Well, I always have to ask what postpartum is like with twins. Any tips there?
Oh my gosh. I was just today, I was counseling a patient on an ovulation induction agent, like letrozole. I was counseling her about the twin rates, and her husband was like, well, twins would be cool. We could do that. And she was like, well, you have twins, Dr. Vera. And I was like, yeah. The postpartum period in the first year was literally a blur. Like, yeah. I don't remember how we got through, but it definitely was with a lot of support. Mm. I took more time off. Obviously,
good,
I learned that lesson. And then I had my mom come and stay with us for a longer period of time. And then I got a lot of the girls from the neighborhood, because it was the summertime. They would rotate being there to help me out during the day. So used all of the things. I found that Lucy's List, LucieSlist.com, was really helpful for us, to blogs on twins and the types of strollers and all of those things. Mm. And then, of course, Facebook pages for twins and all their gear. But yeah, I felt we made it through, so yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like you were just starting to get into some resources there with Lucy's List, but let's talk about your favorite resources to recommend for people.
So, fertility really, I think, comes down to where you're kind of at in your journey. I love, it starts with the egg. I think the period repair manual, that's Laura Bryden. She's got a lot of insights on things that, you may just really want to take hold of before pregnancy planning. And then it starts with the egg, gives you that, information well before. It's like, hey, this is the prep work that, you really want to be doing to optimize your fertility. I love Dr. Laura Shaheen. I think she has maybe a book coming out, but she's a great resource on Instagram for all things fertility. And she just has a very, humble and just a caring nature about her. And obviously there are thousands of REI doctors on Instagram. Dr. Natalie Crawford is great on Instagram as well. And then, the Anito Fertility Monitor is great for, even from 18 until, like I said, I mean, I even have some patients off label using Anido, postpartum perimenopause, where of course we're going to see, non-textbook fluctuations in hormones, but kind of just giving them that insight. Well, I'm feeling this way. I wonder what's going on with my hormones. But absolutely, as a much more elevated and personalized tool than standard ovulation predictor kits, which can be, all out faulty, especially for women with polycystic ovary syndrome. And we know that 10 to 15% of women have polycystic ovary syndrome, and many of them have yet to be diagnosed in that time period of actively trying because they may have just come off of contraception. So I think that really understanding what are my estrogen, progesterone, FSH, LH levels doing on a daily basis has just been so impactful and has shortened my patients' time to conception that I will advocate for it for all my patients.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it with the off-book use for perimenopause too, because I know you have to get your hormones tested multiple times during your cycle. And I'm like, I bet I could just do that with the Anido.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I've been doing it myself. So
yeah.
Books, I mean, of course, for labor, for delivery, for pregnancy. Gosh, I think that we've got a lot more work to do with getting book resources out for pregnancy. But I do like Emily Osler's Expecting Better. I think she's a great resource as well. And she keeps things updated on her website as well. Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, right? I think it's just like a staple for anyone that's trying to hone that very natural and very real strength of wanting to go through natural childbirth. So those are great starters for me.
Cool. All right. And then where can listeners find you to connect online?
So I am on Instagram, mostly at Dr. Roxanne Pero. And then I have a full-time practice where I feel like I'm doing my work that I was put on this earth to do, is seeing patients face-to-face, either through telemedicine or in person at my full-time clinic at Alive and Well Health Dallas in Texas.
All right. Very cool. We'll link to those things from your show notes so people can find you easily. And thank you so much for just taking the time to chat with me today and share your story.
Thank you, Bren. This has been great.
Thank you so much again to Dr. Pero for chatting with me about her birth stories and Anido. Remember, you can use the coupon code THEBIRTHHOUR at anido.com. I will link to it from the show notes page as well as from the podcast app where you're listening to this episode. And then I'll get you the Anido starter pack for just $89. You can find all of the information for the show notes at thebirthhour.com by just searching for Roxanne's name.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, head to thebirthhour.com and click Become a Member to pledge your support. And as a thank you, you'll get an invitation to join our private Facebook group and access to exclusive episodes. Your vote of confidence and support means the world to me.